Hello students, today I am here with a new lecture on cytokines. Let's start with cytokines. Before cytokines, I want to make clear there are two terms which are nearly similar in pronunciation only. And this is first is cytokine. Cytokine is related to the immune system or immunity, which we will do it in detail in this lecture. And second is cytokinin. Cytokinin is a plant hormone which is really an important hormone and play essential role in plants. But it is not related to immune system. And now we will do the cytokines in detail in this lecture. First we will see the main features of cytokines, not cytokinin. The first feature of cytokinin is soluble proteins and glycoproteins. Means cytokines are soluble and glycoproteins. What is the meaning of this statement? Because cytokines can easily dissolve in tissue fluids like blood, mucus, etc. That's why they are called soluble proteins. And second is glycoproteins. Because in the structure of cytokines, the glycan group is present in the side chain of the cytokines. That's why they are called glycoproteins. So cytokines are soluble proteins and glycoproteins because they are able to dissolve in tissue fluids and they have the glycan group in their side chain. That's why they are called soluble proteins and glycoproteins. Second point is they're produced by nucleated cells. Cytokines are produced by the nucleated cells like WBCs and some other nucleated cells, but the cells which will produce the cytokines, they will be nucleated cells. And third point is low molecular weight proteins. Means the cytokines are low molecular weight proteins. That's why they can easily travel from one place to the another place. So this is the important point for the cytokines features. And next is that they are receptor targeted. What is the meaning of this statement? Actually, cytokines work on the basis of the receptors present on the cell surface. That's why we are saying that cytokines are receptor targeted proteins. Without the receptors present on the target cell, they cannot bind with that cell and they cannot work and they cannot perform their function. That's why we are saying that cytokines are receptor targeted proteins. Next point is they are involved in humoral immune response, and the last one is they are involved in cell mediated immunity. Means कि cytokines are involved in both kind of immune response, humoral and cell mediated immunity. What is the meaning of humoral immunity and cell mediated immunity? I hope you all are familiar with these terms. It's okay, I can explain here a little bit. Humoral immune response or humoral immunity is the immunity which is depend on the antibodies. Means when antibodies are involved in the immunity or to perform the function of immune system, that is the humoral immunity or humoral immune response when antibodies are working. And cell mediated immunity is the immunity when natural killer cells, macrophages and dendritic cells are involved. Then it is called cell mediated immunity. Okay. Now we will move on next slide. Now we will see the function of cytokines. First is cell to cell communication. Cytokines can easily communicate from one cell to another cell, and by using this communication skills they can move from one cell to another cell, and due to the receptors they can communicate cell to cell easily. Next point is transcription regulation. Cytokines are involved in the regulation of transcriptions and activation and maturation and proliferations of T cells and some other immune cells. They show the chemotactic movement. What is the meaning of chemotactic movement? The movement which is depend on the chemical signaling. So cytokines move from one place or from one cell to the another cell through the chemical signals. That is why we are saying that cytokines show the chemotactic movements. They control the inflammation. Last point, they control the inflammation and they represent to the inflammation. These are the basic function of the cytokines. Next is the mode of action of the cytokines. Cytokines perform their action by using these three major mode of action. First is autocrine. What is autocrine mode of action? When cytokines produced by a cell and they work on the same cell, like here, there is a cell A, and some cytokines produced by this cell, and these cytokines will work on the same cell to reduce or to control the inflammation. In this mode, they are working in the autocrine manner. That is called autocrine mode of action, when the cytokines produce from the cell and work on the same cell. You got my point? जब cytokines जिस cell से produce हुए हैं उसी cell के ऊपर काम करते हैं to control the inflammation, that mode of action is called autocrine. Next is paracrine. Paracrine mode of action is the action when the cytokine produced by a cell like cell A. कोई cytokine है जो cell A से produce हुआ, but it will work on the cell B. It will work on the cell B. लेकिन क्या है, cell B is present near to the cell A. They are nearby cells. So cytokine produced from cell A and working on the cell B, but they are nearby cells. So this mode of action is the paracrine action, when cytokine is working on the nearby cells. Third is endocrine. In this mode of action, the cytokine produced from a cell like here, a cell A is producing the cytokine, and this cytokine or these cytokines will travel into the circulatory system and they will reach to the target cell which is far away from the cell A. You got my point? The cytokine is producing from the cell A, and now they will travel through the circulatory system and will reach to the cell B, which is far away from the production site. And this manner or this mode of action is known as the endocrine mode of action of cytokines. So on the basis of these three types of mode of action, cytokine works. Now we will move on the next slide. Now we will see major types of cytokines. Broadly, cytokines are divided into 5 categories. First is interleukin. Interleukins are those cytokines which works between the leukocytes and non-leukocyte cells. And you heard about interleukins, like many names of interleukins like IL-4, IL-6, IL-2. What is the meaning of number in the name of interleukins? Like here, IL-4. What is the meaning of 4 here? Actually, number 4 represent here the order of discovery only. It doesn't represent a function, any function or any site of action of cytokines or interleukins. मीन्स कि इंटरल्यूकिन के नाम में जो ये नंबर दिया गया है, ये नंबर केवल वो कब डिस्कवर किया गया है इंटरल्यूकिन उसको रिप्रेजेंट करता है. इट नेवर रिप्रेजेंट टू एनी फंक्शन एंड mode of action or site of action. Okay, next we will come on TNF, tumor necrosis factor. It is named as tumor necrosis factor because of its ability to kill the tumor cells. And TNF are of 2 types. You can note down in between. TNF are of 2 types mainly, जो काफी important है, TNF alpha and TNF beta. Alpha and beta. TNF alpha और beta जो हैं, they are also known as lymphotoxins. Lymphotoxins और LT, alpha और beta भी कहते हैं हमें. lymphotoxins की short form है LT. तो TNF इस तरह से जो important TNF है, they are of 2 types, alpha and beta. They are also known as lymphotoxins. और इन TNF का और TNF alpha और beta का main function क्या होता है? ये क्या करते हैं? Permeability को increase करते हैं. जो टिश्यूज हैं उनकी परमेबिलिटी को इंक्रीज करते हैं, जिसकी वजह से साइटोकाइंस कैन इजीली अब्सॉर्ब बाय टिश्यू इन विच द इन्फेक्टेड सेल्स और इन्फ्लेमेटेड सेल्स आर प्रेजेंट. So this is the main function of TNF alpha and beta, and they have the ability to kill the tumor cells. Next is interferons. Interferons again are of two types, type 1 and type 2. Type 1 में है interferon alpha, beta and type 2 में है gamma. जो interferon type 1 है, that is alpha and beta, they activate mainly on the infection of viral infection. You can say कि when any individual infected by virus, or in that situation, IFN type 1 will activate and they will start the immunity reactions or immune system reactions, and gamma will activate to the macrophages. So IFN are of two types, type 1 and type 2. टाइप 1 के अंदर है अल्फा एंड बीटा और टाइप 2 के अंदर है गामा. अल्फा और बीटा क्या करते हैं, जब कोई वायरल इन्फेक्शन होता है तब अल्फा बीटा एक्टिवेट होते हैं, और जब गामा कब एक्टिवेट होता है, जब मैक्रोफेजेस को एक्टिवेट करना होता है. इन दैट केस IFN गामा विल एक्टिवेट. नेक्स्ट वन और फोर्थ इज अ CSF, means colony stimulating factor. Colony stimulating factor is the class of cytokines which binds with the hematopoietic cells. And hematopoietic cells को के साथ ये bind करके करता क्या है, hematopoietic cells को activate करता है. It will bind with the hematopoietic cell and it will activate to this hematopoietic cells for the proliferation and some other kind of maturation. इस मैचुरेशन और प्रोलिफरेशन की वजह से क्या होता है कि जो हिमेटोपोइटिक सेल्स है, जो इन्फेक्टेड हो चुकी है या इन्फ्लामेटरी है या किसी भी तरह की प्रॉब्लम है उस सेल के अंदर, इस मैचुरेशन और प्रोलिफरेशन की रिएक्शन की वजह से ये सेल जो है वो इन्फेक्शन इन्फ्लामेटरी रिएक्शन को रिप्रेजेंट करने लग जाती है, एंड एज पर द सिचुएशन इम्यून सिस्टम विल वर्क. सो दिस इज द मेन फंक्शन ऑफ कॉलोनी स्टिमुलेटिंग फैक्टर, जो हिमेटोपोइटिक सेल्स को मेनली टारगेट करता है, उनको एक्टिवेट करता है, प्रोलिफरेशन करता है, उनका मैचुरेशन करता है और इम्यून सिस्टम को रिप्रेजेंट करता है इन्फ्लामेशन. नेक्स्ट इज TGF, ट्रांसफॉर्मिंग ग्रोथ फैक्टर. TGF are of three types. Okay, mainly they are of three types and they are also known as the inhibitory cytokines. Means they are the cytokines which reduce the inflammation. जब एक कंडीशन के बाद जब एक इन्फ्लामेशन रिप्रेजेंट होकर कंट्रोल होने लगता है, तो जो इम्यून सिस्टम की रिएक्शंस हैं उनको सप्रेस करने के लिए TGF comes and they show their action and they inhibit the inflammatory reactions, and they will also suppress the proliferation and the differentiation of the immune cells, because after controlling the inflammation there is a need to control the inflammatory reactions, and this work is done by the transforming growth factor. I think you all got about these 5 types of cytokines, and next we will see here कि broadly जितने भी cytokines हैं जो हमने ऊपर क्लासेस पढ़ी, इन सभी साइटोकाइंस को हमने ब्रॉडली दो कैटेगरी में डिवाइड किया है, प्रो इन्फ्लामेटरी साइटोकाइंस एंड एंटी इन्फ्लामेटरी साइटोकाइंस. प्रो इन्फ्लामेटरी साइटोकाइंस जो है, दे प्ले एन इम्पोर्टेंट रोल इन द इन्फ्लामेटरी रिएक्शंस एंड न्यूरोपैथिक पेन. व्हाट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ दिस? जब कहीं पर भी कोई इन्फ्लामेशन है, at that time these cytokines will play the role in developing the inflammatory reactions and to create the neuropathic pain. But anti-inflammatory cytokines work antagonistically of pro-inflammatory cytokines. Means when the pro-inflammatory cytokines finish their work, then anti-inflammatory cytokines will control or will slow down the reactions of inflammation. When there is a recovery time, when inflammation is done and the immune system complete its work, then anti-inflammatory cytokines will come and they will control the inflammatory reactions. You got my point? Means कि दो सारे cytokines को दो broad category में divide किया गया है, और उसके बाद pro inflammatory में उन cytokines को रखा गया है जो inflammation को represent कर रहे हैं, inflammatory reactions को promote कर रहे हैं. But anti-inflammatories के opposite काम कर रहे हैं. वो क्या कर रहे हैं कि इन्फ्लामेशन जब हो चुका है और वहां पर इम्यून सिस्टम अपना काम कर चुका है, thereafter they will come and control the inflammatory reactions. Otherwise तो continuously वहां पर एक पेन रहेगा, uncomfortable zone रहेगी, so there is need to control this inflammatory reaction. Now we will move on next slide. These are the प्रॉपर्टीज ऑफ साइटोकाइंस मींस कि साइटोकाइंस की जो बेसिकली हम जिस टाइप से साइटोकाइंस पढ़े वो किस तरह से फंक्शन कर सकते हैं या किस तरह से परफॉर्म करते हैं अपने फंक्शन को, वो है हम पढ़ेंगे हम प्रॉपर्टीज में. फर्स्ट इज प्लियोट्रॉपी. व्हाट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ प्लियोट्रॉपी हियर in reference to cytokines? One cytokine will show different function on different cells. Means that there is a cytokine, it will perform its function as per the situation and as per the cell with which it will bind. Okay, you got my point? Actually, here I also give an example like the cytokine IL-4, interleukin 4. This is the first type of cytokines which I explained in the previous slide. Interleukin 4 जो है, when it will bind with the B cell, it will activate and proliferate. Means कि it will perform its function in three way. Interleukin 4 जो है, it will perform its function in three way. Like first, here you can see with B cell, when it will bind with the B cell, it will activate and proliferate to the B cell. But when it will bind with the mast cell, it will perform the proliferation and agglutination reaction. And when the same cytokine bind with the TC cell, means the cytotoxic T cells, it will proliferate and differentiate to the cytotoxic T cells. So here you can see कि interleukin 4 एक सिंगल साइटोकाइन किस सेल के साथ बाइंड करता है, उसी के अकॉर्डिंग वो अपना फंक्शन परफॉर्म करता है. So this is the pleiotropy. Means कि one cytokine will show different function, but at which site it is present, the function depend on this phenomenon. Okay, you got it? Next is redundancy. Means properties of cytokines के अंदर next है इसकी property redundancy. The meaning of redundancy is that when two or more cytokines function similarly. Here you can see, I give you an example, IL-2 and IL-6. Both are participating in the same function, like in B cell activation. Both cytokines are different. Interleukin 2 and 6 are different cytokines, but they are performing the same function, B cell activation. So this is the redundancy. Next is synergy. The combined effect of cytokines are more than individual effect. Means कि you can say like that, एकता में शक्ति. Mean कि जब हम एक cytokine के बारे में बात करते हैं, like IL-2, there is a cytokine IL-2 and another is TNF alpha, beta. Suppose कि कोई भी है वहाँ पर cytokines दो, तो उन cytokines का individually जो effect होगा, it may be slow, and when they will combine, they will perform more fastly and more precisely. So the combined effect of two cytokines may be more effective. So this is the synergy effect of or property of cytokines. Next is antagonism. As I explained you in the previous slide, cytokines are of two types broadly, pro-inflammatory cytokines and anti-inflammatory cytokines. तो उसी प्रॉपर्टी से इसकी ये प्रॉपर्टी सामने आती है, उस कैटेगराइजेशन से ही इसकी साइटोकाइंस की ये प्रॉपर्टी सामने आती है कि दे वर्क एंटागोनिस्टिकली. Here is an example. Interleukin 4 and interleukin 6 activate to B cells, while another cytokine, which is interferon, which inhibit the B cell activation. So you can see here कि interleukin 4 और 6 वो activate कर रहे हैं B cell को, but there is another cytokine which is interferon, but it is also a cytokine and it is inhibiting the B cell activation. So it is working antagonistically to the interleukin 4 and interleukin 6. Okay, they are activating B cell, but interferon is inhibiting the B cell activation. So they are working antagonistically, or you can say here कि interferon is anti-inflammatory cytokine and interleukin 4 and interleukin 6 is working pro-inflammatory. So this is all about the cytokines. I can give you a brief review of about the cytokines. Cytokines are the soluble and glycoproteins which work on the basis of the chemical signaling. They work on the basis of the receptors present on the targeted cells. They are of 5 types and They have some properties like pleiotropy, redundancy, synergy effect, and antagonism. So this is all about the cytokines, and thank you everyone.